Hi, Assassins. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Cami.
Welcome to Bookish Realms.
We're just two girls who can't stop talking about fantasy books.
Welcome to our deep dives of Queen of Shadows. This episode covers chapters 23 through 27 of Queen of Shadows. Like in past episodes, the chapter summaries and character discussion are spoiler-free, but the rest of the pod does include spoilers for all of Throne of Glass. This podcast is for mature audiences only, because I do be cussing, girl. But anyways, Cami, take it away.
We do be cussing. Let's get into some chapter summaries. As a reminder, this is a non-spoiler section where we summarize the chapters we'll cover in this episode. So if you haven't read the entire series, but you have read chapters 23 through 27 of Queen of Shadows, you can listen to this section. Chapter 23. Aelin and Aedion finally reunite and catch each other up on everything they've been through. Meanwhile, a new pleasure/fight hall called the Pits rises from what was left of the vaults after Aelin destroyed them. Arobynn pulls Aelin back in by summoning her to fight a Vald commander and impress potential investors. Chapter 24. In the Pits, Aelin faces off against the Vald commander, who reveals that prisoners are being experimented on in Morath. Aelin kills him without hesitation, and Arobynn rewards her by finally telling her where Sam is buried. Chapter 25. Alide realizes her witch blood could make her a target for Parrington's breeding plans. In a desperate and dumb moment, she tries to steal from Manon. But when she's caught, Manon gives her a choice: protection or ruin. Does your blood run blue or red? Alide chooses blue, and Manon accepts her into the Blackbeaks. Chapter 26. As Aedion recovers, Aelin sends out warnings to Terrasen, allies, and the Bane. Aedion looks forward to swearing the blood oath to Aelin, unaware that Rowan has already claimed that bond. Meanwhile, the King and the Vald retaliate by burning the Shadow Market, killing everyone inside as a brutal message. Chapter 27. Aelin tracks a Vald commander into the sewers and discovers a word hound under the king's control. Later, Aelin, Aedion, and Nezrin enjoy a rare night out. As they're walking home, Rowan appears.
Welcome to character discussion. As we dive deeper into this series, the point of view ships are having a lot more, which means we don't always get those big info dumps about the main characters in every set of chapter. Going forward, this section will be split into two parts: quick character summaries, and then deeper dives for the ones that we get a little bit more information on. Okay, before we get into the regular character discussion, I want to touch on Aedion and Aelin together because they are both struggling almost identically in this set of chapters. Both of them never thought that they would reunite with one another, and they both feel as though the years they were away from each other would make the other feel ashamed about what they had done. In this set of chapters, this is something that they both often come back to: feelings of shame, guilt, and uncertainty on if they will still fight for each other once they learn about their past. But later in these chapters, they sit on the couch together and pass some wine, because duh, why would you not want wine when you're reliving trauma? But anyways, they basically do a huge trauma dump about what happened to them for the last 10 years. And this gives them both the reassurance that they needed, that no matter what, they would always have each other's back. I'm also going to talk about them a little bit individually in this section, but this part was too intertwined to not talk about them together. All right, let's dive into some quick recaps. For this week's quick recap, we have Arobynn, Aelin, and Asterin. Speaking of fuck-ass Arobynn, he is trying to secure a new investment after Aelin trashed the vaults, so of course, he uses her to fight the Vald. He tells the people Aelin is one of the silent assassins because he knows that was a rough time in her life after Arobynn sent her there as punishment, and of course, he loves to get under her skin in any way, shape, or form, because this sicko, he loves control, and he will try to obtain it in any way, shape, or form. He thinks that he still has some control over Aelin, but little does he know that he does not have that same effect on her anymore. Next up, we have Asterin. Asterin Blackbeak is described as having gold hair and star-flecked night eyes. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Very interesting to me, but anyways, she is a woman of many secrets. As we know, she recently lost her place as second behind Manon in the 13, and she is trying to do whatever she can to win back Manon's favor, which means she is trying to turn Alide into Manon or being a spy for Vernon, even though Alide is not a spy. But Manon smells right through that shit and then literally makes her go shovel some wyvern shit because she was not a fan of that. And for Aelin, she's in our quick recap section. Aelin is not feeling too good about the fact that Rowan had already sworn the blood oath to her, and she's keeping this from Aedion. And she's not really ready to tell him yet because she knows that it's going to start something, and she's just She just got her cousin back, okay? She's just not ready for that yet. But anyways, Aelin is fighting in the vaults just like old times and decapitates a Valg soldier, which period, slay, we love that. She still has not brought a Valg soldier to Arobin yet, and I understand why, because she doesn't trust him with the Valg, and she wants to question one first before she does bring them to Arobin, which is understandable. So for our deeper dives, this set of chapters, we have Adian, Kale, and Alid. So first up, let's talk about Adian. Adian is just really honestly in a state of disbelief that Aelin is alive in most of these chapters. He is grateful to see her and feels that all of the shit that has happened since he saw her last was worth it. We find out that he initially came to Otterland to try and fill the void of Aelin being gone, but little did he know she was literally in the Assassin's Guild down the street, which kind of like hurts him a little bit. But one thing that Adian does notice is that there's an ancient film scent on Aelin, and as time passes, he realizes it's Rowan's scent on her. And Rowan is like a legend to Adian, which is so cute. But apparently, people used to sit around the fires and talk about Rowan and his cadre and the battles that they had fought in. Let's table this thought for Rowan for right now. But anyways, so Adian also is dead set on taking the blood oath to Aelin as it is his birthright. He mentions this to Aelin on a few occasions, but now let's bring back Rowan for a second. Adian cannot be the only person to take that blood oath because Rowan already has the blood oath with Aelin. So, oops. But I guess we shall see how this plays out. And anyways, next up we have Kale. This is really where my dislike for Kale started, but reading this again, I do truly understand where he is coming from. So first, I need to call him out before I give him some grace because first of all, why does he tell Aelin, you and your master, or when talking about Arobin, sorry. Sir, this is like the lowest of the low blows. I'm not a fan of that. And anyways, Kale still does not trust Aelin for anything. He doesn't believe in her. He can't barely even have a civil conversation with her. He won't really look at her. It's really all bad. And when he sees Aelin fighting the Valg in the vaults, he really is in disbelief that she came back from Mistward with even more skills. And it makes him truly terrified for what is to come if she does rise to power and magic comes back. He is scared that she will have unchecked power and that he and the regular humans will no longer have a voice, which these are all honestly valid concerns. But we needed to learn some coping skills other than being an asshole to people who are trying to make the world a better place for everyone. He is very much in his self-hatred era also. And next up, we have Alid. She is only 18, which we find out she's literally like a fucking baby. But anyways, Manan talks about how her mom was a witch, and Alid can't think of anything worse than that, actually. She has no desire to want to be a witch, which I don't know why she wouldn't want to be. They're literally badass, but to each their own, I guess. Anyways, we learn a little bit more about her dad, whose name is Cal Locken. He was only 31 when the king killed him for being a rebel after Terrasen fell. And then her mother is Marion, who we also know was killed trying to protect Aelin. At the end of this set of chapters, Manan gives Alid the option to bleed blue or red, and Alid picks blue, meaning that she is on the witch's side in a sense, even though 2 seconds ago she was just scared, but whatever. She tells Manan that she bleeds blue, and she immediately feels like a sense of belonging. This is something that is really foreign to Alid, as her parents died when she was really young, and Vernon has had her locked up in a tower for half of her life. And this is the first time that she hasn't felt alone, which sad, but it's okay.
Let's explore this world. Here we cover the main world building elements that come up in chapters 23 through 27. We'll revisit these places and world building elements in other episodes. For today, this section is not spoiler free, so if you haven't finished the entire series, please do not continue. But please come back when you have. For today's world building, we're covering death rituals and blood oaths. We covered some death rituals in episode 7 of our Crown of Midnight deep dives, but we learned 2 more in this set of chapters. Let's quickly recap the death rituals we've learned about in past books. In this series, death rituals often center on remembrance and honoring the dead. In Terrasen, noble families traditionally sang laments in the sacred language of the Fae. These songs are performed in private, often under moonlight. The songs are a way to grieve and recall memories of the dead. Another recurring ritual is the naming of the dead, where individuals recite the names of those they've lost. This act serves as both remembrance and defiance, ensuring that the dead are not forgotten, even under oppression. In this set of chapters, we learn more about Terrasen's burial customs. Instead of bringing flowers to graves, visitors leave small stones. The stones mark that someone has come to remember the dead. The practice reflects a clear belief, which Aelin shares when she thinks, quote, Stones were eternal, flowers were not. It's simple and intentional. The act of visiting a grave, of honoring the dead, should be represented by something that lasts. We also see the importance of death days and prayer. Remembering the date of a loved one's death and offering prayers to the gods is another way of honoring them. When a lead realizes she's forgotten to honor her father, Call Locken, on his death day, she feels ashamed. It reinforces the idea that honoring the dead is both a duty and an honor. In this series, death and the rituals that accompany it aren't just about mourning. We are reminded that death is about remembrance and finding ways to make sure our loved ones are never erased. And now, on to the blood oath. The blood oath is an ancient form of magic used to bind two people together through blood. It has existed for thousands of years, dating back to the time of Bran and Galathinius. The blood oath creates an unequal bond. One person, often referred to as the alpha, holds power, while the other, aka the one who swears the oath, becomes fully bound in service. This means the second person gives up their free will to serve the one they're sworn to. Because of this, the blood oath is seen as one of the strongest displays of loyalty and devotion. Swearing a blood oath is actually a pretty simple process, which it feels like it should not be, but the person swearing the oath drinks the blood of the one they are binding themselves to while making a vow of service. The exact wording can vary, but the intention behind the oath is what makes it binding. In Terrasen, the blood oath was a big deal, which is why Aedion brings it up to Aelin. Since the time of Brandon, each king or queen would allow only one person to swear the oath to them. This person was usually their most trusted companion. This was considered a great honor reserved for a single individual for the entirety of a ruler's life. For Aelin, Aedion was supposed to be this person. But as we know, Aelin let Rowan take the blood oath at the end of Heir of Fire. Blood oaths are different in Doranel, where multiple people can be sworn to one person at the same time. Aelin ends up adopting this approach, and by the end of the series, ends up giving out blood oaths like Oprah. Rowan, Aedion, Fenris, and Lorcan all end up blood sworn to Aelin. A blood oath is meant to last forever, or until death. It can be broken, but doing so is rare and is usually seen as a dishonor. Releasing someone from the blood oath is typically a punishment, not a mercy. Maeve allows Rowan to break his blood oath to her without dishonor, but only because Aelin had her foot on Maeve's neck.
This is our analysis and foreshadowing section, which is not spoiler free. We'll break down parts of the text that tie into or foreshadow future events in the series. Again, if you have not read all of Throne of Glass, please do not continue. Okay. I'm going to do a little countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Previously on Queen of Shadows. Aelin disguises herself as a dancer, sneaks into the castle, and breaks through the word-marked traps by spilling water onto the floor. During the performance, the dancers shatter black glass flowers, filling the room with smoke, while Aelin frees Aedion, grabs the sword of Orinth, and fights their way out. In the garden, they're stopped by Valg-possessed Dorian. Aelin traps him and begs for a sign that he's still in there, but when he doesn't respond, she prepares to kill him until Nesrin stops her. They escape with Kael and Lysandra realizes Aelin is the queen of fucking Terrasen. Meanwhile, Elide is revealed as a Terrasen noble under her uncle's control. Our girl can't read and didn't know she's part witch. Manon learns more about the Valg, and a Yellow Legs Coven volunteers for Parrington's experiments. Back in the castle, the Valg-possessed Dorian is furious Aelin didn't kill him, and Kael refuses to give up on saving him. While Kael searches the tunnels, he finds them completely empty, and realizes the Valg have disappeared. Very ominous.
We kick off chapter 23 with Aedion and Aelin. It is their first reunion, and honestly, it is so emotional. Aedion wakes up and immediately senses someone is nearby. When he sees Aelin, he is so overwhelmed, he literally can't breathe. Aelin tries to keep things light by making a few jokes about his rescue, but Aedion can't even help himself, and he begins to tear up as they talk. Aelin hits Aedion with a simple, "Hello, Aedion," and that shit hits him deep after a decade apart. I feel like we keep forgetting, but they were apart for 10 years. That shit is no joke. Aedion also tries to keep it light with a few jokes, but we can feel how emotional and intense this entire moment is. They are both figuring out how to interact and be around each other after all this time, after everything that's happened. Their entire kingdom fell. Aedion thought she was dead. It is a lot. But Aelin cuts through it all by simply telling Aedion, "You're exactly the way I dream you'd be." And with that, Aedion realizes that Aelin has somehow learned about all the things he was ashamed of and worried to share with her, about being quote-unquote Otterlin's whore and about the Bane. With that simple sentence, she's telling him that it's all okay. She understands the sacrifices that war and loss require. And Adian meets Aelin where she's at. He tells her, "You're a little taller than I'd imagine, but no one's perfect." There is a lot that these two have to learn about each other, but right now is not the time. Aiden needs to let Aelin know that he also realizes she's been through hell and back in the last 10 years and that he accepts her for who she is. They're trying to keep it light. They're trying to keep it fun. I get it.
Because that won't last for long, damn it. It will not last for long. But Adian is Adian, and he immediately shifts into an old dynamic protectiveness, or as Aelin would call it, that female bullshit. And again, to put it, Adian is demi-female. He is not a huge fan of Aelin saving him, much less the fact that she did it alone. He's angry with Ren and the captain for letting her rescue him, which I'm not shocked because literally in simple Adian fashion. And Aelin does push back, but again, gently, they're just reuniting. She makes a joke out of his territorial Fae bullshit because that is something that will continue to happen, and she does that throughout this whole entire series. Adian laughs it off, but internally, he's feeling a lot. Quote, he laughed again and realized that though he'd loved her before, he'd merely loved the memory. The princess taken away from him, but the woman, the queen, the last shred of family he had. It was worth it, he said, his smile fading. You were worth it. All these years, all the waiting, you're worth it. He'd known the moment she had looked up at him as she stood before his execution block, defiant and wicked and wild. How could you not love this series? I'm sorry. Okay. These first few moments between them are so important, especially since we saw in Fire and in the beginning of this book that they're both pretty worried about the expectations the other may have on them versus what the reality is. Aiden realizes that he didn't truly know Aelin before. He was honestly just living off a memory, the princess, the child that she used to be, not the woman that she has become in these last 10 years. And despite the fears that they both had about the reunion, Aiden feels the opposite. He loves and accepts Aelin for who she becomes, or at least like for now. We know Adian has his L's in the future, unfortunately. And the way that Adian describes Aelin is important too, using the words like defiant and wicked and wild. Those are all traits that others have criticized and turned away from, but Adian sees them as a part of the reason why she was worth everything that he had been through. And being told that she's worth it is exactly what Aelin needs to hear, especially after being used, controlled, and doubting herself for so long. This also sets the tone for Adian's loyalty. He is loyal to Aelin as a person, not just as a queen or as a symbol.
And Aelin, our avoidant queen, tries to brush off the emotional moment, but it's obvious that she's holding back tears. They continue chatting, and Aiden asks Aelin to sit with him, wanting to be close to her. Aelin hesitates, but sits next to him. And that's when Adian is hit with Aelin's scent. Quote, her scent hit him. For a second, he could only breathe it deep into his lungs, his Fae instincts roaring that this was his family, this was his queen, this was Aelin. He would have known her even if he were blind, even if there was another scent entwined with hers, staggeringly powerful and ancient and male. Interesting. Let's remember, Adian is demi-fae, so he has certain senses and abilities that humans do not. Aelin's scent isn't just a scent. It carries history. It marks her as family, as a queen. Even after 10 years, Aelin's scent is still Aelin's to Adian. Adian says that he would have known her even if he were blind, which is very Song of Achilles coded if you've read that book. But also, once again, reminds us of the depth and importance of a person's scent in this world. That's why we hyperfixate on it all the time. But that's not all that Adian notices. He also sniffs out another scent intertwined with hers, a powerful and ancient and male scent, aka Rowan. Okay, silent screams. There's a few reasons Adian might sniff out Rowan's scent tangled up in Aelin's. One, Rowan took the blood oath. Oops. Adian's about to be big mad about that pretty soon, but let's move on. Two, Rowan and Aelin just spent a lot of time together and his scent is still clinging to hers. Or three, Rowan is Aelin's Karanam. Or four, our favorite, this is a huge hint to Rowan and Aelin being mates. Four is our favorite option, obviously, but it's most likely a mix of all of these things.
As they chat, Aelin takes care of Adian, fixing his pillows and checking him for injuries. Adian also checks her for injuries, still trying to take care of her, even though he literally can barely fucking move. Finally, after they are both satisfied that the other is safe and uninjured, Adian asks Aelin to tell her story first. And so she does. They spend hours talking, trying to catch up on the past 10 years. It's a lot emotionally, but honestly, they needed to get it out. Aelin feels connected to Adian again as a cousin and as a friend. Quote, they've been forged of the same ore, two sides of the same golden, scarred coin. She'd known it when they spied him atop the execution platform. She couldn't explain it. No one could understand that instant bond, that soul-deep assurance and rightness, unless they, too, had experienced it. But she owed no explanations to anyone, not about Adian. Leading up to this reunion, and even after it, we hear again and again how similar Aelin and Adian are physically, but emotionally, they are also very similar. The phrase forged of the same ore really captures that. It's more than being family. They've been shaped by the same fire, trauma, and survival. They carry similar wounds, despite the fact that they've lived separate lives. Aelin feels instantly bonded to Adian because they share pain. They share identity as some of the last remaining Terrasen royals, and they share a common purpose. It's especially interesting when you think about Aelin's other relationships. Aelin does not trust easy. Trust with her has to be built, but with Adian, it's literally almost instinct. And I don't know about you all, but I don't know if you have cousins that feel like siblings. This is literally what that is. You grow up these people, you learn to love them in ways that you would a sibling. You see them all the time, you're willing to die for them, literally. I would stop a bullet for them. So it's understandable that they're having these feelings, you know?
Yeah, I think also that's why the flashbacks in Heir of Fire to their relationship when they were I don't know, 10 years old, they're so important because it makes this reunion feel less like instant love or instant care because we just learned about how much they were connected when they were kids, you know? Even despite all that, though, Aelin is still scared. She asks Adian if he's ashamed of what she's done, which makes me so sad. This is her biggest insecurity, and Adian immediately answers that he could never be ashamed of her. Adian realizes that Aelin is still struggling to believe him. He says, quote, "You survived, I survived. We're together again. I once begged the gods to let me see you, if only for a moment, to see you and know you'd made it. Just once, that was all I ever hoped for. Whatever you had to do to survive, whatever you did from spite or rage or selfishness, I don't give a damn. You're here and you're perfect. You always were and you always will be." And this is exactly what Aelin needed to hear. In the last 10 years, both Aelin and Adian have learned what survival can cost you. Sometimes the cost of survival is parts of your soul, especially when you're trying to survive tyranny and war. Aelin carries so much shame about what she had to do and who she had to become to survive. She's internalized her rage and spite as flaws instead of seeing them as a product of and a necessity to survival. In Heir of Fire, she was able to break down some of those thoughts, but she still carries a lot of those ideas and a lot of that shame. Adian's words help remove some of that moral judgment that Aelin placed on herself. Again, we're not saying Adian is free of L's in this series, and he doesn't always stick to this line of thinking when it comes to Aelin, but in this moment, he needs her to know that he accepts all of her. We close out Aelin and Adian's emotional reunion and shift to basically the complete opposite. So,
Dun, dun, dun. No, I'm just kidding. We are shifting over to the pits, baby, which is the new underground fighting arena that is somehow worse than the fucking vaults, which again, Aelin destroyed. But anyways, down there it is chaotic, it is noisy, and it is filled with the stench of piss, blood, and beer. Ugh, people are there to watch and to bet on fights, okay? Aelin has brought Kale to the pits where she hopes to track down the Valg, since they have just poof, they're gone. They're gone from the tunnels. As always, Kale thinks this is a bad idea, which Kale thinks that everything Aelin does in this book is a bad idea. But Kale isn't necessarily wrong. It is clear that Robin has set this whole thing up. He wants Aelin to fight in the pits to impress investors and to try to gain control over her again, which, if you listen to the character discussion, we talk about how Robin loves control. He thrives off that shit, that Motherfucker. But anyways, the thing is that they're actually there. They're in the crowd, not hiding at all. It's almost like they're drawn to the violence, ready to feed off of it. And our queen, Lysandra, she is there too. I love her. Aelin has to keep up the act to hide their friendship, but thanks her for helping rescue Adian. Robin pushes Aelin to choose a Valg to fight, and this again is all about control and testing her limits/boundaries. Robin wants Aelin to feel like she owes him something for Adian's rescue. But Aelin agrees, not necessarily because she feels like she owes Robin something, but because she knows he could still betray them. She walks into the pit ready to fight. And when the pit lord asks for a name to fight, Aelin says, she says, Ansel of Briarcliff. Yes, that Ansel, that one. 1 extra second, Assassin's Blade Ansel. Yep, that one, that queen right there. Earlier in the chapter, we learned that not Ale. Okay, we learned that Aelin has dyed her hair red again to try to conceal her identity. And if you recall, Ansel also has bright red hair. Okay, but this is so funny because in Empire of Storms, Ansel returns to the story, and one of the first things that she says to Aelin is, quote, "Who gave you permission to use my name in pit fights, Aelin?" Even here, in a pit fight, Aelin is thinking 100 steps ahead. Ansel is informed that someone is using her name in pit fights and realizes that this is a signal from Aelin to get ready. Because again, our queen is smart. She knows what she's talking about. But anyways, back to the pit fight. Aelin, being Aelin, does not play it safe, of course. She chooses the Val commander as her opponent. I would expect nothing less. But anyways, from the sidelines, Kale thoughts are racing. With Valg and Robin involved, he knows this is more than just a fight.
I love that moment. Who gave you permission, bitch? Okay. Anyway, Kale thinks, quote, "The Queen of Terrasen was in a fighting pit in the slums of Rifthold. No one here, he'd wager, would believe it. He was hardly able to believe it himself." You guys know this. We love these very poetic, introspective lines that SJM writes, because this line is so much more than Aelin is a queen and how wild it is that a queen is in the fighting pits. Aelin is always redefining what queenhood is in moments like this. Simply put, Terrasen wouldn't have a queen if Aelin didn't learn how to fight, if Aelin didn't become exactly who she became. In a world like Aurelia, under a ruler like the King of Otterland, all that pomp and circumstance about royalty and kings and queens fades away. There is no space for tradition or order. There is just survival. Kale's disbelief about this whole situation also shows us that he's still fighting to dismantle his own worldview. Kale believes that a queen should not be in a fighting pit, but Aelin understands that this is what it takes. And Aelin doesn't disappoint. The fight is fast and brutal, but Aelin proves that she's stronger, faster, and skilled. Our girl dominates the pit, and the crowd is loving it. To be honest, Aelin is loving it too. Our girl loves to fight. You know who isn't loving it, though? The Valg commander that's going up against our fire-breathing bitch queen. Aelin gets the upper hand and looks to Arobin for confirmation before finishing the fight. Arobin nods. Once again, he is all about controlling the situation. Kale is disturbed throughout this entire fight, and not just because of the Valg. He realizes that this is just another way that Arobin is using and controlling Aelin.
But watching Aelin fight also brings back up a lot of questions and concerns Kale has about her and her power. Quote, "It hadn't even been a fair fight. Aelin had let it go on because Robin had wanted it to go on. And once she took out that clock tower and her magic was back, what checks would there be against her? Against Adian and that Fae prince of hers, and all warriors like them. A new world, yes, but a world in which the ordinary human voice would be nothing more than a whisper." We talked about this before, and I feel like you guys are going to hate us for saying this, but unfortunately, these are really valid questions coming from Kale. And again, let's also state that the first time I read this, I was a Kale hater. So the fact that I'm admitting this is also you'll come around, I promise. Watching Aelin fight makes it clear just how powerful she is. And once her magic comes back, the power is only going to continue to grow. As we know, she's powerful as fuck. And Kale has experienced firsthand what unchecked power looks like under the King of Otterland. It makes sense that he's worried about what magic means in a world that they're trying to build. There's no denying that magic gives Aelin and other wielders the upper hand. And the truth is that all governments need checks and balances. Right now, Kale can't picture what this new world would look like, especially for ordinary humans. Kale has these hard questions about power, justice, and control because he's thinking about humans and how they'll fare in a world with magic wielders. He wants to make sure human voices won't be diminished or ignored because they're not as powerful. But he also needs to like fucking touch some grass. Because Aelin would never be that kind of ruler, nor would she allow anyone to be treated like that, regardless of whether if they're human, fae, witch, or something in between. And I think like also like he just has like I think he can't visualize the clock tower being gone and magic coming back because even though the king himself doesn't have like magic in a sense, he is like, what is happening? Like, you are so powerful and all these things are happening. And he just can't wrap his head, he really can't wrap his fucking head around the fact that, like, when magic comes back, like, these people are already powerful and magic is down. Like, what is going to happen when it comes back? So, yeah, I don't know. But I'm no longer a kill hater. I just have moments of dislike.
I think his thought process around magic is also part of his like indoctrination by the King of Otterland because he, I think whether he realizes it or not, still views magic through that lens of like, this is why it had to go away. Even though at this point, like, obviously he knows that that's like the King of Otterland made magic disappear. But like, I think he's just still like breaking down his like thought process around it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. But Aelin is working to end the fight and she does gain the upper hand, but the Val commander he's not done yet. In an attempt to throw her off her game, the Valg bites Aelin's arm, literally bites her. The Valg tastes Aelin's blood and says, I know what you are now. You half-breed bitch. Anyways, Kel is stressing. This is a dangerous situation. There is no telling how much the Valg can learn from Aelin's blood, and the Valg could reveal exactly who she is, like literally right now in this motherfucking moment. In this moment. But Aelin doesn't stress because she spits back at the Valg. Good thing I know what you are too, prick. Period. I love that. I love that.
I was reading that and I was like, how much could the Valg figure out right here, right now? That's scary. That's scary. Aelin knows that she needs to wrap this up, but she can't help herself. Our girl, what is she always wanting? More information. So she says, quote, "What's your name?" she said, circling the demon commander. The demon inside the man's body chuckled. "You cannot pronounce it in your human tongue." Okay. We hear you. We hear you. Okay. We hear you. You guys know that we love to collect all these little nuggets of information about the Valg because there are so many unanswered questions about what they really are and where they come from. And not just in this series, but potentially in the Maasverse. This is one of the many times when we are reminded that whatever language the Valg speak does not exist in Aurelia. In fact, this Valg seems to be convinced that it would be so foreign to Aelin that she cannot pronounce it in her human tongue. Like, that's crazy. In a story where names or being nameless is literally part of the prophecy that determines the fate of Aelin and Dorian, it is very interesting that the Valg does not give its name. It doesn't even try. Even more, we know that the Valg prince inside Dorian made him forget his name as a control tactic. There is something more there, but we just like don't have all the answers yet. And like, unfortunately, we don't have them by the end of the story, but there is something there. Even as he's losing the fight, the Valg commander can't help himself. He threatens and mentions Morath, hinting to the Valg experiments that are going on there. Thankfully, Aelin's had enough. She kills him quickly by snapping his neck and then beheading him. Very normal, very standard. And the crowd goes crazy because they are sickos. The fighting pit is too dark for the crowd to see that the Valg blood is black, not red. But the other Valg who are watching this fight take note and they watch Aelin. That is not good. Just my own personal thoughts. Aelin leaves the pit and walks over to Arobynn. He is not happy that she didn't follow orders. Remember, part of the deal with Arobynn is that he wants Aelin to deliver a Valg soldier to him, but he wants to be an alive Valg, not a dead, beheaded Valg. So, yeah. Aelin plays along, saying that she'll deliver what he's asking for eventually. But Arobynn isn't done. He wants her to know that he is in control. So he brings up Sam, taunting her with the location of his grave. I can't. This man is so sick to me. What episode does he die? Literally, when does he die? Aelin, of course, wants to know where Sam is buried, but knows that there's always a price with Arobynn. But in a very, strange turn of events for him, Arobynn tells her that she's already paid the price for that information. Still, Aelin doesn't trust him. She tells Arobynn that she wouldn't put it past him to give her a fake location and have her bring stones to the wrong grave. We covered this in world building, but bringing stones to a grave is a tradition in Terrasen. Arobynn tells her where Sam is buried. He's not in the crypts of the keep. He's resting at a small graveyard by the river's edge. Aelin thanks him, even though it is killing her, and I would like to kill him. But Arobynn makes it clear that this isn't over and that he expects her to hold up her end of future deals. He wants that Val captured alive and delivered to him on a silver platter. The chapter ends with the pit owners walking over, clearly interested in having Aelin participate in more fights. But she tells Arobynn that she's retired. Good for you, Queen. She leaves the pits, hoping that Kael and Nezrin understood what she was trying to show them tonight. Arobynn cannot be trusted, and she should have killed Dorian that day.
And we are back with the witches and a lead. Anyways, a lead is working in the kitchen trying to gather info about when the next supply shipment is coming in. She learns that one is coming in 2 weeks. Our girl immediately starts thinking about how she can hide out in one of these supply wagons to escape. I hear you, sister. But then Astern enters the kitchen, and we are again reminded of how observant a lead is. Quote, not Manon, but the one named Astern, golden-haired with eyes like a star-flecked night and a wildness in her very breath. Elite had long ago noted how quick she was to grin and had marked the moment when Astrid thought no one was looking and gazed across the horizon, her face tight. Secrets. Astrid was a witch with secrets, and secrets made people deadly. Elite is right on the money here. Astrid does have a secret. Astrid is hiding her love affair with the hunter, losing her treated her after that. But Elide, thinking the secrets made people deadly, is more reflective of her worldview rather than Astrid's. Astrid's secrets don't make her deadly. If anything, they make her more human, more emotional, and more empathetic. Elide sees secrets as weapons, but Astrid's secrets are more like wounds, which we'll find out later. The interaction between Elide and Astrid continues, and it just gets more and more interesting. Astrid offers to help with dishes, but everyone in the kitchen is terrified of the witches, so the cook forces Elide to work with her. And Astrid quickly starts making comments and asking Elide questions. Astrid wonders why Elide, Alora's daughter, is being forced to do servant work. That is a great question, Astrid. That is a great fucking question. Astrid then calls attention to the chain around Elide's ankle, and she says, no one else in this place is chained up like a slave. What makes you so dangerous, Elide Locken? And this question really sets the tone for this whole combo because it's clear that Astrid thinks there's more to Elide than what's on the surface. Elide works hard to appear meek and scared. But the fact that Vernon keeps her chained up at least lets Astrid know that something is up, even if Elide doesn't realize it yet.
And so Astrid continues. Elide thinks Astrid is interrogating her to see how dangerous she could be to the witches, but that is not all. Astrid starts telling Elide how humans fear witches and torture them when they can, but that true torture for witches is to be chained and tied down to earth. As she says this, Astrid glances down at Elide's chains. And Elide, unfortunately, is for some reason still not getting it. Remember, at this point, we know Elide has witch blood because Manon knows, but Elide does not know. Astrid asks Elide how old she is. Elide is 18. And then Astrid says, quote, you must have been 8 or 9 when magic fell. The witchlings who were your age at the time never even had a chance to fly. The power doesn't set in until they're first bleeding. At least now they have the wyverns. But it's not the same, is it? And guys, Brooke and I were gooped and gagged in our voice memos over this because we simply did not remember this exchange this way, at all. Obviously, we remember that Elide has witch blood, but we did not put together that Elide could potentially have magic that we never see, not even by the end of the series. And now, why do we say that? because we know that Elid's period was spotty at best due to like malnutrition and stress. It returns in full force in Empire of Storms, which gives us the iconic scene where Lorcan rips up his shirt to make her pads. So cute, so sweet, we love him. So, if magic fell before Elid had her first period, and then it returns in full force after magic returns, could Elid develop powers later on, like maybe even after the end of Kingdom of Ash? We know throughout the series, Elid is connected to Anith and the wind, but in the midst of war and battle, there wasn't really much time for her to see if she has any powers. This whole moment opens up a lot of questions and future possibilities that, again, like, we did not catch until this reread. Okay? Not at all.
No. I simply was in shambles.
Yeah.
As the second I finished reading that sentence, I was texting Cami like, girl, what does this mean? Because that's crazy. Like, that is crazy to think about though, because her period was so spotty. And then it just like magically appears now after Kingdom of Ash. And I think, or not after Kingdom of Ash, sorry, after Empire of Storms. And it's just like, okay, like maybe you just didn't have the opportunity for that magic to fully develop, which is so,
I think there's something there.
There has to be. And I feel like again, Sarah, maybe this is her like letting us know that she's not done in this world yet. And I don't think she is. I actually, after we listened to that Call Her Daddy podcast, I don't think this will be the last time that we ever hear from Throne of Glass. You know? Like I think there will be more. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there, I guess.
But back to what Astrid is saying. Elid says that she doesn't know what Astrid is getting at because she really doesn't. You guys, she is not like playing dumb. She is like not getting it. But Astrid leans in close and tells Elid, quote, "But your uncle does, doesn't he?" Astrid is trying to get Elid to understand that her uncle definitely knows about Elid having witch blood, and that's why he's kept her chained up all these years. Vernon is afraid of what powers Elid might have.
And I fear that Astrid really needed to like spell it out more. Still, she continues telling Elid, quote, "You've never heard the wind calling your name, Elid Locken? Never felt it tug at you? You've never listened to it and yearned to fly toward the horizon, to foreign lands?" Internally, Elid is thinking she'd spent most of her life locked in a tower, but there had been nights, wild storms. Like, Elid is literally like, is this fucking play about us? If you watch Euphoria, you know, okay? We know the witches are deeply connected to the wind because of their ability to fly. And the truth is that Elid has felt connected to the wind in the past. She just never really like knew what that meant. Like, honestly, if somebody was like, yeah, the wind is connected to you, I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, are you okay? Do you need to be put in a psych ward? Like, literally, no idea. And Elid is literally still not getting like what Astrid is saying though. So finally Astrid says, "You would hear that wind, girl," she said with expert quiet, "because anyone with iron teeth blood does. I'm surprised your mother never told you. It's passed on through the maternal line." Internally, Elid is freaking out. She thinks, quote, "Witch blood, iron teeth blood, in her veins, in her mother's lineage." Astrid is literally like that TikTok sound, "Witch! Witch!" Or have you ever seen that one where it's like, "And her sister, she was a witch." Literally. But really, this is a huge shocker to Elid. She literally has no idea that her mom had witch blood. And as we know, Elid's mom is Marion Locken. And in the flashbacks in Heir of Fire, we learned that Marion saved Aelin by fighting off the assassins who came to kill her off after her parents were murdered. In those flashbacks, we also learned that Marion and Cal, Elid's dad, were considering sending Elid to magic school. And perhaps, most importantly, especially for this moment, we learned that Marion's blood is red because Aelin sees when Marion is beheaded by the attacker. So, whatever witch blood Marion and Elid have, it is pretty distant because witches have blue blood.
Elid admits to Astrid that her mother never told her about any witch ancestry. But Elid also realizes what Astrid has been trying to hint at this entire conversation. Vernon may have kept her chained and brought her to Morath because of that witch blood. Vernon might even see her as an option for the Valg breeding experiments. Elid leaves the kitchen and Astrid behind. Desperate, Elid runs to Manon's tower. She is panicked and trying to plan her escape. She starts stealing coins from Manon, which is a terrible idea. I mean, do you have a death wish? Honestly, what the hell are you thinking? Astrid catches her and calls her out, saying, quote, bold, mad little thing, not as docile as you pretend. Elide admits that she's desperate to escape because she's scared of what Vernon will do to her, how he will use her because of her witch blood. When Elide reveals this, Astrid tells Elide that at least now the witches know Elide isn't a spy. And then Astrid calls her a witchling. So interesting. Okay. Right as Elide and Astrid are going back and forth on whether Elide even wants to be considered a witch, Manon walks in. And to be honest, Manon has had enough of everyone's shit, okay? She's dealing with the yellow legs being used for experiments, her grandmother's letters, Vernon, the Duke, and now this. Manon demands that both Astrid and Elide start talking now. Now, make it snappy. Let's go. Astrid defends Elide, telling Manon that Elide is not a spy for Vernon, and tells her everything.
And Manon tries to appear unfazed, but Astrid pushes. She asks Manon point blank, quote, where does the line get drawn? This is why Astrid is so important to this story and to Manon's character development. Astrid is not afraid of Manon in the way that the other members of 13 are. And Astrid is always challenging Manon's moral and ethical compass because she believes that Manon is capable of more. She wants Manon to establish her own sense of right and wrong, including when it comes to Elite, which I think is so interesting because Astrid, she has that like sense of human in her because of the fact of the hunter in the woods. And I think that if that hunter in the woods like was not a thing, this Astrid would just be like the rest of them, right? But that's what makes Astrid so unique in this situation. Astrid pushes. You said to keep an eye on her, and I did. I got to the bottom of things. She's barely past being a witchling. You want Vernon Locken, bringing her down to that chamber or over to one of those mountains. Manon replies, I don't give a shit what Vernon does with his human pets. But internally, Manon thinks, quote, but once the words were out, they tasted foul. Again, Astrid fundamentally disagrees with letting Vernon and the Duke use the witches for experiments and for breeding. Astrid tries to get Manon to see Elide as a potential witchling, so she'll protect her. But Manon simply shuts it down by calling her a human pet. Astrid and Elide can't hear Manon's internal thoughts, but we can hear those loud and clear, baby. We see that she is saying that they felt wrong to her because that's not really what Manon feels or thinks. When she calls Elide a human pet, she's using the voice of the Iron Teeth, of her grandmother, and of her upbringing. This is one of many small moments that show us that inside, Manon is changing. She says one thing but feels another. She knows that what's happening to Elide and the Yellow Legs is wrong, but she's not ready to take a stand against it. Astrid has become like Manon's moral compass, and we see that Manon is starting to question the version of herself that was created by her grandmother. But Manon is done with that conversation. She dismisses Astrid. She tells Elide she can keep the coin she was stealing and begins escorting her back to her room. As they walk, Manon realizes that Elide's plan is to escape using the supply wagons. She put that shit together real quick.
Manon doesn't fully understand Elide's fear of Vernon, and Elide explains that she's worried Vernon is playing games and could be potentially waiting for the witches to confirm that Elide has witch blood. And of course, they round a corner and run right into Vernon himself. Awesome. He pretends to be concerned for Elide, saying that he's visiting her. But now Manon is on edge. She asks Vernon why he'd be visiting her. This quickly turns into a power struggle between Manon and Vernon. He accuses Elide of allying with the witches, and Manon tells him to say what he's got to say and go. Vernon warns her, but Manon doesn't take it. But that's when Vernon brings up Elide's father, Cal. In the chaos of everything, Elide forgot it was the anniversary of his death. Elide is devastated and ashamed that she forgot.
Again, Manon doesn't back down. She calls Vernon a useless worm and forces him to leave. When they're finally alone in Elide's room, Manon gives her a choice. Quote, does your blood run blue or red? You decide. If it runs blue, it turns out I have jurisdiction over you. Little shits like Vernon can't do as they will to my kind, not without my permission. If your blood runs red, well, I don't particularly care about humans, and seeing what Vernon does with you might be entertaining. While this is an absolute terrifying question to be asked, this is the only way that Manon can offer Elide protection. Manon offering this is huge. One, because Manon is not someone who typically offers choices. Manon is the one that gives orders. And two, it shows us once again that something is changing inside of our little witch queen. I love her. Alid might literally have just a drop of witch blood, but Manon is willing to protect her because it is what is right.
And Alid is shook. Who wouldn't be? She asks Manon why she would even offer this, especially since if Alid chooses to say her blood runs blue, it confirms what Vernon already suspects about her having witch blood. This is when Manon reveals that this is also a trap, because, of course, if Vernon does anything to harm Alid, then Manon will have grounds to kill him. Alid realizes that the risk is huge, but Alid is also a survivor. Quote, the witches who lowered their eyes for no man. Until she could get away, perhaps she might learn a thing or two about what it was like to have fangs and claws and how to use them. We've said it time and time again. Alid has a lot of internal rage. She wants to feel powerful. She wants to fight back. And Alid sees the witches as beings who use their anger to fuel their power, and she has spent enough of her life being controlled, silenced, pretending to be meek and scared, being locked up in a tower. Like, she is done. She is drawn to the freedom and autonomy that the witches have. They lower their eyes for no one. This offer represents what Alid really wants. She wants the ability to defend herself, to fight back, and to never be powerless again. And so with that, Alid says, blue. My blood runs blue. Let's go! Let's fucking go! Okay. We love. Manon tells Alid, good choice, witchling, and welcomes her to the Blackbeaks. Alid knows that she just made a life-altering, potentially dangerous decision. But underneath all of that, she feels something new, a sense of belonging. We love this for her.
Love so much. Little does she know that will be the first of many difficult decisions that she makes.
Yeah.
But it's okay, Queen. Your king is coming. Your King Lord Lorcan Locken is coming. He's on his way.
We love him.
And with that, we are back in Rifthold with Adian and Aelin. Adian is trying to recover by walking around the roof with Aelin. And who is the topic of conversation, you ask? Our favorite Prince Warrior, Rowan. We love him. Adian tells Aelin that Rowan is actually pretty famous. He actually says Rowan Whitethorn is a legend. And Aelin is like, please do not tell him that. His ego is already humongous. But what Adian really wants to talk about is plans. And if Aelin has one, great. He's about to figure out that Aelin always has a plan and she is really bad at sharing them. But Adian is right to be concerned. He is thinking long-term about Terrasen and all the things they need in order to fight this war. Armies, money, and alliances. Aelin is focused on her immediate goal, getting the amulet of Orinth back from Arobin's greasy little fucking fingers, and then freeing magic, because those are the first steps of her plan, okay? She'll get to the other shit later. And then Adian brings up the topic of the blood oath. Adian, he does not know that Aelin let Rowan swear the blood oath, and he sees it as his right and part of his identity. And Aelin is like, okay, let's talk about literally anything else, because she does not want to tell Adian this piece of info just yet. Again, they just got reunited. But honestly, it does all end up working out, and Aelin ends up handing out blood oaths like it's literally candy. She's like, you get a blood oath, you get a blood oath. Everybody gets a fucking blood oath. Yeah, everyone. Then our number one hater of this book, Kale, he shows up and he's got bad news, because of course he does. The Shadow Market has been completely destroyed by the king's soldiers. They sealed the exits and then burned everyone inside. Literally sick to my stomach. It was a deliberate, vicious attack. The king knew rebels gathered there, and he was being strategic by killing them off and also sending a message. Aelin is very upset by this, which, as she should. She asks Kale why the king would even do this. And Kale points out that Aelin's actions are a part of the reason why this happened. Someone told the king that the rebels who helped free Adian were meeting in the Shadow Market. The king is retaliating, trying to shut down any rebellion. Adian immediately defends Aelin, calling Kale out for blaming her, and things are getting a little tense. They're getting a little tense. Aelin is angry, but tries to keep her composure. She asks Kale if he really thinks she doesn't care about innocent people, and Kale argues that Aelin prioritizing saving Aedion without thinking of the consequences. Kale doesn't stop there. He basically accuses Aelin of seeing Rifthold and its people as expendable. This is one of Kale's biggest L's.
Yeah, it's an L moment for sure, for sure. However, Aelin does shut it down. She says, quote, "Need I remind you, Captain, that you went to Endovir and did not blink at the slaves at the mass graves? Need I remind you that I was starved and chained and you let Duke Parrington force me to the ground at Dorian's feet while you did nothing? And now you have the nerve to accuse me of not caring, when many of the people in this city have profited off the blood and misery of the very people you ignored." A slay. Literally, period. But this is honestly it is the reason why they have so many issues in this book, because Aelin is making Kale confront his own past. She brings up Endovir, the slaves, the mass graves. These are all horrific things that Kale saw and chose not to act on. Aelin needs to say these things out loud, not just to defend herself, but to make clear that she knows what tyranny looks like because she's lived through it. She was enslaved, she was starved, trapped, and humiliated. Aelin is flipping the moral argument that Kale's been having with her since they reunited. Kale is questioning all of Aelin's choices, but Aelin needs him to realize that he can't claim the moral high ground here. The truth of it all is that no one walks away innocent under tyranny. Aelin survived by doing brutal things. Kale survived by serving the system and looking the other way. They both feel guilty, but they are unable to face the guilt and move forward. But more than that, Aelin is asking Kale to see the hypocrisy of Rifthold. Many people in the city have benefited from the suffering of others, even if they weren't directly involved. And again, that is because no one walks away clean under tyranny. And that's really important when trying to understand what kind of queen Aelin wants to be. She wants to break down these systems. Something that Aelin seems to understand that Kale cannot yet is that in war and rebellion, there are always consequences. There is always collateral damage. There is no way to protect everyone and keep them safe. The reality is that you cannot defeat a tyrant without cost. And it's not just an argument between them, it's where their worldviews diverge. Kale is still breaking down his ideas of duty, order, and morality, but Aelin wants to change the world. And Kale thinks that they can do it without people getting hurt, and that is just not the reality. It's just not.
They just want to make the world a better place, okay? That's all they want. She just wants to make the world a better place. Very sad.
Aelin fights back at Kale and tells him that he doesn't get to blame her for the shadow market. Those are the king's actions. Kale insists that Rifthold still needs protecting, but Aelin is done. She replies, "Or maybe this city should burn. Maybe the world should burn." Does she mean that? No. But Kale is pushing all her buttons, so she's just like, be quiet. Enough.
Silence from you. Shut up, Mom. I love that TikTok sound. But anyways, Aelin leaves. Clearly, we are both chronically online, if you can't tell. Like, we reference TikTok a lot. It's very sad, actually. I need to get my screen time under control. But anyways, Aelin leaves. Kale and Aedion are left alone. Kale brings up Dorian because our boy is desperate to save him. Kale asks Aedion if he interacted with Dorian at all. Aedion breaks the news that there was, quote, no sign of the man inside him. Dorian didn't even remember Sorsha when Aedion brought her up. Kale is worried. He admits the rebels are struggling, people in Rifthold are disappearing left and right, and some of the rebels want to leave the city before it gets worse. But Kale can't imagine leaving without Dorian. In a very out-of-pocket suggestion, Aedion says that Kale could be king. Kale says that he's not fit to be king. Aedion points out that there are worse alternatives, like Holland. We still don't know what happens to him. But anyways, if you don't remember Holland, that is honestly okay. I think his name is mentioned like maybe 10 times in this whole entire series. But this is Dorian's little brother who everyone says is a spoiled brat. And Kale knows that Holland sucks. But he asks Aedion what him and Aelin would do if Holland took the throne. Aedion tells Kale that they don't kill children. Which, yeah, literally. Aedion tries to end the conversation on a better note. He tells Kale that he can trust them. He can trust Aelin and Aedion. But Kale replies, no, I can't. Not anymore. After leaving, Kale lashes out at Nesrin, even though he immediately regrets it. We get a lot of Kale's inner thoughts here, and he is going through it. He feels guilty, he's questioning all of his choices, and he's wondering if he's honestly just ruined everything. As this chapter ends, we switch to Aylin's POV. She is also going through it, but she's back in action. She's focused on tracking down the Valg. She follows one into the sewers, following him through the tunnels. The commander reaches a giant pool of water and kneels before it. And then something emerges from the water.
Chapter 27 starts with an absolute bang. Okay, the creature is coming out of the water, and Aylin immediately realizes that she's seen this thing before. Quote, her heart leaped into a wild beat, and she willed it to calm as she took in the details of the creature that now stood waist deep in the pool, water dripping off its massive arms and elongated serpentine snout. She'd seen it before. One of 8 creatures carved into the clock tower itself. 8 gargoyles that she'd once sworn had watched her, smiled at her. Was there currently one missing from the clock tower, or had the statues been molded after this monstrosity? Let's get the main thing out of the way. You're thinking it, we're thinking it. Yes, we will talk about this in the Maasverse episode for this book. Do not worry, we would not leave you hanging like that. But this moment connects back to the clock tower and the guardians, aka gargoyles. In Throne of Glass, Elena warns Aylin that these gargoyles guard the portals between the worlds. Several times throughout Throne of Glass, Aylin swears that she sees the gargoyles move. Back then, Aylin didn't know about the Valg, but she's putting all of these pieces together now. The gargoyles are representative of another Valg creature and potentially can be embodied by a Valg, like in this moment.
As she watches the creature, the eye of Elena flares up, letting Aylin know that she is in danger. And then the gargoyle creature tells the Valg to report. This is also when Aylin assigns this creature a name. Quote, Wordhound. That's what she would call it. Even if it didn't look remotely like a dog, she had the feeling the gargoyle thing could track and hunt as well as any canine, and obeyed its master well. Aylin naming this thing a wordhound is really interesting. She points out that it does not look like a dog, but she names it after what she perceives the creature's functions to be: to track, to hunt, to obey. Aylin quickly analyzes the Valg gargoyle creature and realizes that it has a job within the Valg structure. She also realizes that the Valg that's speaking to it is its master. But now, Aylin also knows that there might be all sorts of Valg creatures out there, watching them, tracking their every move. Sorry.
But this is where things get interesting. Remember, the Valg gargoyle, the wordhound, is who asked for the report, not the other way around. The Valg answers that there is no sign of the general or the others who helped them escape. As the wordhound talks, Aylin realizes that she recognizes its voice. Can you guys guess who is using the wordhound to talk? It's not a demon or a man, it's the king. Aylin is shook. Quote, she didn't want to know what sort of things he'd done in order to see through this thing's eyes, speak through its mouth. The king is controlling the wordhound, who is giving orders to the Valg. I'm sorry, I love my girl Aylin, but how did we not put it together right here and now that the king might have Valg in him? Girl, how did we not see that? Because why else would an otherworldly, powerful demon creature listen to a human king? I know that that's easy to say on a reread, but this is a huge hint that there is a lot more to the king. Aylin leaves the sewers with a plan. She'll hand over a Valg commander to Arabin like he asked. She'll let Kale and Nezran hunt them all if that's what they'd like to do. But first, she's going to hunt one down and talk to it.
Aylin makes her way back to the apartment. Adian immediately calls her out for being gone too long. He's worried and frustrated. Again, that female bullshit. Adian just got Aylin back, and he's trying to be protective. Aylin tries to remind him of the reality of their situation. There is always going to be danger, and this is literally the start, okay? Adian again pushes her to share her plan, accusing Aylin of only sharing half-truths. Aylin gets pissy until Adian admits that he feels responsible for her scars and how she's been hurt. This kind of disarms Aylin and makes her realize that Adian is still learning how to deal with the things that have happened to her and the guilt he feels for not being there to defend her. But this also kicks off our fun little scar tour from both of them. Aelin points out scar after scar, telling Aedion the story behind each one. She tells him about the scar on her neck from when Baba Yellowlegs tried to kill her, and about the one that she got from Rolf in the Skull's Bay. Aedion shares some of his scar stories too. The fingers on his left hand are crooked because a soldier broke them all because Aelin was talking shit. He shows her a huge scar on his stomach from a battle in Rosamel. Aelin shows him the scar on her back from Endovir and the tattoo she got from Rowan that covers them. It is, honestly, a nice little bonding moment. When they're done, Aedion offers Aelin the Sword of Orinth, which is her father's sword and hers by birthright. But Aelin doesn't let him give it to her. She tells Aedion it belongs to him and that there is no one else who deserves it. This is a big emotional moment for Aedion because it's also yet another moment when Aelin is rejecting traditional symbols of power. By giving Aedion the sword, she's showing him and the readers that she values Aedion's loyalty and sacrifice more than she values tradition.
Over the next few days, Aelin keeps sneaking out to gather information, frustrating Aedion, who feels caged and restless. Aelin finally gives in and lets Aedion out, which is so funny. Nesryn joins them, and while it's a little tense at first, they end up at a tavern playing cards. They make sure to keep their ears open and gather info, but mostly they take the time to get to know each other. Aelin asks Nesryn questions about her family and her background. As the night wraps up, the three of them are walking through the slums. Aedion's space senses pick up someone following them. Ruh-roh, are we in danger, guys? But that's when Aedion picks up the male's scent. Quote, Aedion palmed his fighting knives as the male's scent hit him. Unwashed, literally, you're dirty, bro, but with a hint of pine and snow. And then he smelled Aelin on the stranger, the scent complex and layered, woven into the male himself. Everybody, calm down. Everybody, calm down. But we are 27 chapters in, and our baby Rowan is back, our pine and snow king. Again, this is one of many times that Aedion or other Fae are able to smell how Rowan and Aelin's scents are intertwined. And again, this could be because of the Carnon bond, the blood oath, all the time they spent together, or because of their mating bond, or a combo of all of those. I choose to believe it's their mating bond.
Okay, back to the actual moment. I'm literally fangirling over here anyways. We get all of this from Aedion's POV. The male comes out of the fog. Aedion's like, okay, damn, he's taller than me and ripped as fuck. What the hell? Aelin steps forward, absolutely shook. Our girl cannot, she doesn't know what to do. She literally starts crying as she takes off sprinting towards this, again, male, right? We don't know who it is. It's fine. Aelin jumps into his arms, crashing into him and hugging him. Nesryn tries to step forward because she's like, hello, are we not worried about who the fuck this man is? And that is when we get the iconic TikTok sound. Who is that? Nesryn asked. Aedion smiled. Rowan. Oh my god, I have tears in my eyes. And assassins, that is where this set of chapters end. Our babies are reunited. The city is covered in Valdians. The king can possess gargoyles. Elite is a witch. Everything is exciting. I love this book. Sarah, you are a genius. And next, we have our favorite moments. And these are moments in this set of chapters that we really, truly just loved. Honestly, if we could quote the whole fucking set of chapters, we probably would, but we can't. So...
My first favorite moment is from Kale's POV as he watches Aelin fight the Valg in the pits. He thinks, quote, the Queen of Terrasen was in a fighting pit in the slums of Rifthold. No one here, he'd wager, would believe it. He was hardly able to believe it himself. We obviously got into this in foreshadowing and analysis, but it's also one of my favorite moments because it does just feel like so Aelin to me. Not just because Aelin is a queen who would do anything for her people, including fight in a pit in the slums, but because it reminds me that Aelin was also Selena and was also an assassin. I think the deeper we get into the series, the more we forget Selena. But in moments like this, I'm reminded that we would not have Aelin if she hadn't been Selena first. And I just love the contrast of a queen paired with something so gritty like a fighting pit. And then my second favorite moment is, of course, when Elide says that her blood runs blue. It is such a good moment and also just reaffirms everything that we've already started to think about Alid. She's cunning, she's smart, and she's fierce in her own way. This is also one of the first times that Alid is given a choice, and I love that this is the moment where she gets to claim something for herself. Alid gets to decide who Alid is, and I love that. And at the same time, it's one of the first times Manon offers someone a choice that feels compassionate. It gives us a glimpse into who Manon is becoming and who she could be as Queen of Witches.
So I also have two favorite moments from this set of chapters because of course I do. But my first favorite moment in this set of chapters is this like sweet moment between Aelin and Adian. I'm just going to read the whole thing because I feel like I have to. You survived, I survived. We're together again. I once begged the gods to let me see you, if only for a moment, to see you and know you made it just once. That was all I ever hoped for. She couldn't stop the tears that began slipping down her face. Whatever you had to do to survive, whatever you did from spite or rage or selfishness, I don't give a damn. You're here and you're perfect and you always were and you always will be. I just like really love this moment because I touch on this a little bit in character discussion. They have both like really struggled with what they thought the other of them like would think after they found out what has happened within these 10 years that they were separated, and they finally reunite basically telling each other like, I don't care what you have done, like I will always pick you. And I think that both of them in this moment for this story to continue needed that reassurance for their relationship to move forward. And again, like for like and the story as a whole, I think to move forward because Aelin really needs to hear that. But I also really love this moment because I don't know if you've like ever been in like a dark place and like you've made some like not so good decisions, and like somebody like you just needed a person to like help pull you out of that, right? And I think that like that just reminded me of like some things that I've been through in my life, and there was always like people there telling me like it doesn't matter, like we care about you. We know that this isn't like who you are in your nature. And I think that it's just really important to like have that one person that can be your light in a world of darkness at points in time. So I just really like that scene. My next favorite moment is between Aelin and Kale. And it's basically when he's like blaming Aelin for what happened in the shadow market. And Aelin is like, she basically is saying like, you can't blame me for the shadow market. And Kale is telling her like, the city still needs protecting. And Aelin says, or maybe the city should burn. And maybe the world should burn, basically. And then she like walks off. I love this part because one, it reminds me of Game of Thrones. And if you know, you fucking know. Like, if you know, you know. And two, Aelin obviously like doesn't fully mean this and she would never actually do this. But she knows that right now in this world, in this war, she is like really not like on the winning side. Like she knows that like shit is not really turning in her favor. She doesn't have an army. She doesn't have any money. One of her closest friends is turned Valg Prince. Her other close friend hates her and doesn't trust her, aka Kale. And her man at this point isn't near her at all because this happens before Rowan comes back. And she has no idea like when that will happen again. So the easiest thing for her to do would just be to burn all this shit down, right? To burn it all down. Again, not that she would ever actually do this, but to like start with a clean slate because everything else like it feels too overwhelming. Like there's too many things that are happening. She's taking too many fucking L's and she's just over it. Like she's simply like, I'll just burn this bitch down. I don't care, you know? But she does actually care and she would never. But that's why I like that moment. And lastly, our final thoughts.
I think we've both said this in every Queen of Shadows episode, but action, action, action. Like things are happening, baby. And I am so glad that Rowan is back because I love his dynamic with Aelin. And as we know, the tension between the two of them really kicks it up in this book. I also really enjoy the way that like moral, political, and ethical questions are brought up and addressed by the characters in this book and in the series as a whole. And we start like seeing it again in this set of chapters a lot more. And I think it's really interesting the way that the characters are unable to separate moral, political, and ethical questions. And I think that's really important. And it really drives the point home that politics are moral and ethical, and that our government and our leaders should be making conscious, well thought out decisions. And that's why when Kale has questions about checks and balances, we give him a break and we understand where he's coming from. Because is he annoying? Sure. Yeah, he's annoying. But is he asking Aelin as a potential leader of a nation to make a conscious, well thought out decision? Yes, he is. He is asking her to be a moral and ethical political leader. And that is very important. That's it.
Yeah, very important. I wish the US still had checks and fucking balances. But anyways. table that thought for later. My first thoughts are, like literally, oh my gosh. I forgot that this is when Rowan comes back in this book. And I literally screamed because I just forgot. Like, I simply forgot. It's been a while since I've read these books for the first time. And I am just so happy to have our king back because, like, I love him. I love him so much. I love their little moments. I just love everything about them. But these set of chapters had my Maasverse senses tingling. They were tingling, tingling, tingling. And I just really cannot wait to continue eating this book up because this is the first time that I'm reading these books again. And when I had first read this series, I had not read Crescent City or really like I had listened to Akatar, but I wasn't really like, oh my God, there's a Maasverse. You know what I'm saying? So this is the first time that I'm like rereading these books in the sense of having read the whole entire Maasverse as a whole. And it's honestly just so fun to see all of the small and like bigger connections. And I just really can't wait like, because obviously we've taken a pause, so it's been a minute since we've done a Maasverse episode, and I just cannot wait to like jump back in to the Maasverse as a whole. It's so fun, and like we love to spiral.
We're going to eat up the Queen of Shadows Maasverse
Yes,
episode for sure.
yes. Oh, absolutely.
Because there's so much like, there's little things and then there's really big things that come up that are Maasverse related.
Mm-hmm. And if you have not read the whole entire Maasverse, like, please. I know it's a lot and it's intimidating, but I promise you, you're going to have to read them all, basically, anyways, because in order for you to read Akatar 6, you're going to have to read Crescent City. So, but we will we will talk more in depth about that when we get to like Akatar stuff. That wraps up our deep dives for chapters 23 through 27 for Queen of Shadows. We hope you enjoyed our analysis and theories. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok where our handle is @BookishRealmsPod.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on these chapters, so drop us a comment or send us a message. Also, leave us a rating if you liked what you heard. It really helps us out.
Join us next week when we continue our Queen of Shadows deep dives with chapters 28 through 32. Until then, as always, keep reading, Assassins.
Bye!